I'm John Holl.
I'm Tom Holl.
And this is Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. Comedy writer, television showrunner, and fast food critic and enthusiast Bill Oakley is here. And I'm also going to explain why my brother is sitting in on this show in a moment. But first, this episode is brought to you through support from NZ Hops. In a little country far down in the Pacific, you'll find a cooperative of master growers whose legend and cultivars have been crafted for over 150 years with creativity and passion to produce some of the world's finest hops. This is NZ Hops. The industry originated in 1843, not long after the early settlers arrived from England. Years of partnership with a dedicated hop breeding program and farming knowledge handed down through the generations sees the current-day master growers proudly producing 18 unique New Zealand hop varieties to the world. Visit nzhops.co.nz or find them on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at nzhopsltd. Season 8 of The Simpsons introduced us to Cecil Underdunk Terwilliger. He's the younger brother of Sideshow Bob. And our guest this week is Bill Oakley, who, among many other things that we'll tell you about, was the showrunner for that season, as well as Season 7 of the long-running animated series. And so it seemed only fitting to have my younger but taller brother on this show, especially since he's the one who first put Oakley on my radar.
On his Instagram page, @thatbilloakley, he chronicles the fast-paced, high-caloric, sometimes gimmicky, often tasty, modern Americana that is fast food. He regularly posts videos of himself sitting in his car outside of familiar spots like Popeyes, Burger King, McDonald's, KFC, and others, giving reviews of their latest offerings or discussing menu hacks sent in by viewers.
Like so many of the great comedy writers of his generation, he went to Harvard, where he worked on the Harvard Lampoon. In 1992, he joined the staff of The Simpsons, where he wrote or contributed to many of the episodes that are considered golden classics to this day. He and his writing partner, Josh Weinstein, won 3 Emmy Awards for their work.
They became showrunners and executive producers of the show for seasons 7 and 8. You may remember those seasons for such episodes as The Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show, Radioactive Man, Homer's Enemy, and 22 short films about Springfield. After leaving the show, he and Weinstein created Mission Hill, an animated series that appeared on the then WB network. They also consulted on Futurama and many other projects.
Oakley began writing and then became a co-executive producer for Portlandia, co-writing every episode on the 3rd season. We're going to talk about comedy and writing, and we're going to try hard not to geek out too much, but this is a conversation about fast food and the intersection with beer. And there's actually a lot, aside from the bad decisions made after too many pints at the bar, that you can join together with beer and fast food.
Oakley spoke to us from Portland, Oregon, where he lives.
And I started out the only way I know how. Here's our conversation. I'm curious, how long into a typical conversation does it take for someone to ask you about The Simpsons? Do they slow burn it, or do they just kind of barrel into it like I'm doing right now?
They do that. What you're doing right now. They do that. Like, the thing about it is, yes, I thought The Simpsons. Now, first of all, let me say, The Simpsons was a pleasure to work on, and it will definitely, the fact that I wrote Steamed Hams will be on my tombstone, no doubt about it. However, that was 5 years ago. So I always enjoy talking about other more recent endeavors as well.
Yeah, no, and I want to talk about more recent endeavors, certainly. Because I think there's so much that you've done since then. And it's funny that you brought up Steamed Hams so early, because obviously there's the fast food connection of your Instagram page and the work that you're doing there. But I also read this oral history not too long ago, where when you first wrote it, or you said when you first wrote it, like, it was just sort of there and it didn't take off until like 20 years later.
That's the case with a lot of that stuff. Is the culture of internet memes really had a strong effect on those old episodes. Like, I got to say, at the time, you never heard anything about it from the public. You write the episodes, you broadcast them, and then you never hear anything again, because once in a while you could read all TV Simpsons if you had a Unix account and could log on to the prehistoric internet, but they hated everything, so we got rid of our modem at the office at that point. But yeah, then you just broadcast the episode. You never had any idea what people liked and didn't like. So you just kind of wrote it for yourself and maybe for your friends. And it only became, these episodes obviously got, they ran over and over and over in syndication, burning themselves into people's brains.
Yeah.
And so they had a life far beyond what originally the expectation was. And then the whole internet meme culture kind of resuscitated certain Simpsons aspects, like to a crazy degree, like Steamed Hams probably being the most. It was the meme of the year in 2018, according to the people who keep track of such things. And so now remember that this was a thing that I had written, and I never heard anything about it for about 18 years. And then all of a sudden it becomes a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that you have what is now just an instant feedback machine in the internet, right? Whether it's Instagram or, when you said that everybody hated it, on your Unix account, right? And you had to so you deleted it right away. That seems to be what Reddit is now, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that it's interesting that something like that, which seems so insignificant, just, catches hold, whether it's in the moment or because of reruns or 20 years later because of internet culture. What do you think it is about that that caught people's attention?
I think that there's such a huge, I would say that there's such an avalanche of material. There's such an avalanche of content from everywhere. There's a quadrillion TV channels with new TV shows, 4 or 5 new TV shows launching every day, plus an infinite amount of material on YouTube and on Twitter. And literally every day there's an infinite amount of new entertainment material. And there's so little material that everybody knows. And I think that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing that it brings people together in a weird way that doesn't happen very much anymore. It used to be that 40 years ago, 50 billion people a week would watch MASH,
right,
or whatever, yeah. and that would be everybody be talking about it, or All in the Family. Now there's so few things that most people know, and I'd say that like Simpsons episodes, particularly really memorable ones, are among that. So it's fun for people to kind of get together online and reminisce about them. And reminiscing these days also includes kind of remixing things, and like the Simpsons shitposting universe is such an incredibly entertaining universe, and there's a lot of content from there too. People remix the stuff that they remember into new and interesting forms, and I love it. I think it's very entertaining. I always get a kick out of that as a Simpsons fan. If there was any way for me to get any money out of it, that would be sweet. But
you'd love it even more.
So, yes, right. It's all property of Disney anyway, so I don't care really. I mean, whatever. They got plenty of lawyers.
What you just said earlier, though, of back then you were writing for yourself and you were writing for your friends. How has comedy writing changed for you? Because you've been doing this for most of your career professionally, and so if you're writing. And I'll just use Steamed Hams since you brought it up first. I just want to be very clear that you brought that up first.
Sure.
Do you think the writing process for something like that would be different today versus when you first wrote it because of internet culture and because of the way that comedy is taken in, consumed?
I don't think so. I mean, the thing is that there's such a I think everybody knows you can't write for the audience. And I've seen this repeatedly from stand-up comedians, from anybody who does creative material. You kind of have to do it the way you want. Because writing it for the audience usually ends up, it comes out worse and they don't like it anyway. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have to stick to your own sensibilities. And I think that at least the most successful things do that. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that is written for a specific audience, probably stuff for little kids mainly, that succeeds beyond people's wildest dreams. But I think in general, people are looking for a specific point of view, and that's what you got to stick to.
I have to imagine that's got to be the same thing that brewers feel, right? Is that a lot of brewers are going to brew beer that they want to drink themselves as opposed to what's going to be popular. And you have, of course, Bud Light and Miller Lite that's brewed for the masses, right? Just like you have, McDonald's, right? That is cooked for the masses, right? But then you also have, when you get into something really good and really tasty, it's usually people creating what is essentially an art form, whether it's comedy writing or any kind of writing, or whether it's brewing or whether it's cooking. All of that are different types of art. And I think that there's certainly an intersection right there.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to agree with brewing as an art. And I'm going to defer to you, Bill, on all of this because you are, the fast food critic that these times need. Is there an art to fast food?
I don't know if I would consider. I mean, there's always a huge definition. There's a huge line between art and craft. I'd say there's a craft. I can never quite figure out where that line falls because people I know the definition of art versus craft. I can never figure out where that line is, and people are always giving heaps of bullshit about that. So I'll say that there's certainly a craft to creating fast food. And if you're cooking anything, like I actually, even though even though I'm nominally the Gordon Ramsay of fast food, I also deal with tons of other type of food and and liquor and beer and stuff on my Instagram story.
Yeah.
The videos I do are for fast food, but my Instagram story is all sorts of like oysters. Last weekend I did a 20-part thing on oysters that this oyster farm had sent me from Alaska, and today I'm going to be posting a thing about Malort from Chicago. So
have you tasted it yet?
I have tasted it, and I'm posting the video today.
Is your Malort face? So your Malort face is captured on video?
Yeah, I don't think that my Malort face is going to impress anybody because it wasn't as outraged or alarmed as I think most people's Malort faces are. Because I was really prepared for it to taste as bad as it did. I won't spoil the video, but it does. Yeah. I mean,
well, this is going to air afterwards, so
okay.
Okay. You'll be spoiling it for the two of us, but I think we can allow that.
Yeah, it tastes terrible, but like it's not. It didn't shock me. Like I think I have one thing that I haven't yet eaten that somebody sent me a year ago is this fermented fish from Sweden. It's supposed to be the surströmming, which is supposed to be the world's smelliest, most awful food, and like. You can't open it like they say, don't open it in your house. The smell will never go away. And you got to open it outside in a bucket of water. And like, I still haven't done it because I'm actually somewhat afraid. Malort did not scare me. The only thing that I really like, it tasted terrible, but like not beyond, like I've had some other weird liquors that taste bad.
Yeah.
Like this is the worst, no doubt about it. Cause it's basically my assessment is that it's like 5% grapefruit flavor and 95% liquefied fireplace ashes flavor.
Oh yeah.
And so that's my assessment of it. And furthermore, the worst thing about it is that it stays in your mouth for at least an hour.
Oh yeah.
The flavor stays in your mouth, and that is weird. So anyway, that's a sidebar about Malort.
But there's a cult following, to that. And I mean, there are devotees. I mean, I've been in Chicago at bars where I've seen, dudes with Malort tattoos. I mean, Malort merchandise is out of control. I mean, to me, it's always sort of tasted like, like rusty metal and depression. Like there's no real redeeming factor about it except like the shared experience that like everybody agrees that it's delightfully disgusting.
I think that it's a test of your macho-ness, that you can. That's probably why guys do that and get tattoos. I think that like you're the kind of badass who likes terrible tastes, and they don't. It's a questionable type of badassery, but that's like I think it show. It's kind of like I don't know people who smoke cigars. Like I still can't figure out why people like cigars, and I would imagine it's probably in the same universe of stuff. Anyway,
I mean, it seems I've never had Malort before, but I've always however long I've known about it, it seemed to me like it's a gimmick more than anything.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that you see the same thing in fast food, in all types of food, right? You have like the KFC Double Down, right? That's a gimmick. Whatever the
and beer. I mean, this podcast is about beer.
Exactly. So no. And I was just going to say what by benefit of being John's brother, I've had a lot of very good beers. I've also had a lot of other types of beers. And one of them that really stands out in my mind, John, I don't know if you remember this, was a beer. I think the brewery was opened in an old slaughterhouse, and the beer was brewed with cow hearts.
No, that was Sam Adams.
That was Sam Adams?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So Sam Adams with Chef David Burke, and this is maybe about a decade ago, did a beer called Burke in a Bottle that was brewed with grilled beef hearts and rosemary.
It tastes just as good as it sounds.
So the aroma off of it was actually, if you've ever walked into a good butcher shop, like where they do the work themselves, and you have that metallic, bloody, tinny aroma in the air, that's what this beer smelled like.
And it tasted like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's so many. I mean, I'm sure your listeners are very familiar with the world of weird novelty beers, and I get sent. I would say there's always. At least once a month, there's some sort of Simpsons-related one that people send me photos of. And
those are the ones that people don't understand that Disney has lawyers.
Right.
I mean, I remember it tasting, that beer specifically tasting like, and yes, maybe it smelled like a good butcher shop. It tasted like, you opened up one of those styrofoam packages of ground beef and just poured the drippings into
it wasn't
into a glass of beer.
It's not what you would expect from Sam Adams. But what are some of the weird ones that have come your way, Bill?
I can't. Gosh, I wish I could remember. There was a couple of different Simpsons flavored Simpsons, and they were basically based on things from the Simpsons, but I can't remember at the moment. I've gotten a lot of weird beers mailed to me, and I would say the one that I most recently had that I enjoyed was the cinnamon toast crunch beer, which sounded weird, but like was really good, and like it had some. It just had elements of kind of vanilla and sweetness and cinnamon that I did not expect that I would like in beer, but I did. And I will also, hold on one second, I'll tell you, the best weird beer I've ever had was just recently sent to me, and it's a pineapple flavored beer that was, I have it here on my phone, but let's keep talking and I'll look for it in the meantime.
By the way, when you said Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Tom and I locked eyes and we're trying to figure out who was going to make the shrimp tail joke first.
I deferred.
Yeah, we both decided not to, but I have to tell you, it's incredibly weird doing this show with my brother this week. One, because I think we both sound similar on the radio, but two, we're stepping on each other with the exact same questions. Can we talk?
Oh, I found it. Here you go. So this guy, Mike Alvarez, sent me this. It's the Pineapple Cart beer from Golden Road Brewing.
Sure. Yeah, that's an AB.
Pineapple wheat ale with blood orange and strawberry, a series inspired by the iconic fruit cart vendors of Los Angeles. I will say that I can say unequivocally that was the best weird beer I've ever had in my life. And that's one of the few that I would actually go out and try to seek out and purchase.
I'm going to say right now, because a lot of the listeners are going to start sending me hate mail because that's an Anheuser-Busch owned brewery, which I don't have a problem with.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Golden Road. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. Ownership doesn't matter. But I imagine now that there's going to be brewers listening to this who want to one up that. So I will say, send me an email and I will get you in touch with Bill so that you're going to be awash in just like batshit crazy beers over the next couple of weeks.
This is the interesting line, and I want to. This has become a thing in my fast food journey. Is that like I don't really like food that is intentionally bad, that is intentionally horrible. That like where the point is, this is so like the beef heart thing sounds like it's gross.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't like stunt food. I'm totally fine with novelty food, but Instagram is loaded with people putting up photos of these burgers with 15 patties. And I'm like, who the fuck wants to eat a burger like that?
Yeah.
I don't mind a burger that's big, but I don't want a grotesque monstrosity that is just there for publicity. And I think that's the thing and that's honestly probably what Malort is too. It's a novelty item that people have embraced, but nobody drinks it for pleasure. It's the same thing.
I disagree. Have you been to dive bars in Chicago? I
have not. You know what? That's probably true. There probably are some people who would drink it for pleasure, but it's a perverse pleasure.
Right.
I would say.
Pleasure nonetheless.
For hot sauces, there's a limit beyond which the hot sauce starts to damage my enjoyment of the food.
That was what I was going to go to is the spice thing. It seems like there's almost a competition. There's these places where you have to sign a waiver, right, if you order the hottest chicken wings on the menu or something like that. That's just,
right.
What's the point in that?
I mean, well, it's just to get photos and show off for your friends or whatever. Like, I would say that's fine. And I have Carolina Reaper sauce that you can only have one drop of, but I wouldn't put it on any food. I mean, the meal would be ruined.
Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned your fast food journey, which makes it sound very romantic.
It's stupid. It's a stupid phrase, but it works.
So where did this fascination begin? Is this just part of American life these days, and you're just capturing it, or was there some? Yeah,
I think I am a genuine fast food enthusiast, and this is not it's not like I'm like a guy who normally who ate salads and is doing this, like, who was slumming by doing this. I have been eating this stuff. I've wanted to eat this stuff my whole life, and it was because I was so radically deprived of it as a child. Because when I grew up, we were in the, first of all, when I grew up, McDonald's was advertising to kids constantly, right? And it was on TV, and the nearest one was 60 miles away because we lived in the country. And so I'd get to go maybe once a year for my birthday.
Oh, wow.
My parents would take me. And so I always wanted fast food, and I never lived until probably I was 30 to any conveniently located fast food. And so I never really got to have very much of it. And I really like it. And I always was the type of person who, like, when McDonald's would introduce a new burger, I would rush out to try it. And basically what happened is I had a lot of opinions about it. I shared them with people. I shared them on Twitter. And then one day I was like, rather than typing up a prose tweet about my opinions, why don't I just film a video? And that's kind of where this whole thing took off.
Is fast food Americana?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's the ultimate American, like, and particularly the hamburger, like, is the ultimate. The cheeseburger is the ultimate American item all over the world. It's it's a symbol of both what people like and what people hate about America, and so is fast food to some extent. Like, and this, I'm taking this all from Adam Chandler's book. If you guys, anybody who's interested in the history of fast food, needs to read this book, Drive Through Dreams by Adam Chandler. It's a terrific book, and I'm basically just paraphrasing his conclusions. But yeah, it's the ultimate American thing, and it was all invented by guys, mainly veterans after World War II. Most of these guys had high school educations or less, like Dave Thomas didn't finish middle school, and it was guys who could determine their own path by creating these hamburger stands, which took off. And these guys like Ray Kroc and Carl Karcher and Dave Thomas, Glenn Bell, all these guys had actually kind of similar backgrounds, and they invented this universe that we now have fast food. Now, fast food has a ton of problems these days too, with labor issues and food purity issues and environmental issues. But that I don't cover that necessarily on my Instagram. That's more for Twitter. On my Instagram, it's just whether the food is good or not is kind of what I generally get to the point of.
And I'll remind everybody that on Instagram you are at that Bill Oakley.
Right. And so you mentioned you grew up in the country. You're from Maryland, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
What was your early what was your early beer history like? I mean, obviously, maybe not as a kid, but what kind of beer was in the fridge? What was your first early exposure to beer?
I remember that my dad. I can never remember whether it was Budweiser or Pabst Blue Ribbon because of the colors of the cans, but I definitely remember that my dad had that around and occasionally would let me have a sip. And then, but I didn't really like. I mean, I wouldn't say that he was a huge beer drinker, but he definitely would have a beer with with dinner or something, or especially if we had something like fried chicken or things like that.
Yeah.
That was my and then then a lot of it just kind of it was in high school. And like I would say, here's the thing about my beer. I am not really a beer. I'm not really a beer gourmet. My tastes are extremely pedestrian in terms of beer, and I think that, and I don't want to alienate your listenership.
No,
I would say
believe
that,
me, like you're giving our listenership too much credit. It's like 4 guys.
Okay, good. Well, then I'll tell you that my tastes tend to run. Look, I drink a lot of beer, and I probably drink an unhealthy amount of beer, and it's generally
you're in good company, Bill. Don't worry.
Show.
Okay, good. It's generally pilsners and lagers, and it's generally whatever's cheap. So for me, and I really like PBR, PBR and Rainier, which we have in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I generally get those.
Which is made by the same company, but yeah, okay.
I don't drink light beer because if I drink some beer, I want to get a buzz. I don't want light beer, but it has less alcohol. And I know that's an unhealthy way to think as well, but that's the way I think.
No, that's fine.
Now, I also like Freem. My favorite beer, actually, to be honest, is Freem, which I don't know if you guys have ever tried.
Yeah, no, they're...
PFREIM, which comes from Hood River.
Yeah, Freem Family Breweries they're wonderful people. Yeah,
I freaking love their Pilsner beer. However, it's 3 times the cost of Budweiser or whatever. So I only get it when I'm really feeling like wealthy.
Have you been drinking any of the Heater Allen stuff?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, Heater Allen is one of the great breweries of Oregon right now, and they make only lagers, and they're just delightful and wonderful.
Maybe I've seen it. Hold on. What's it called?
Heater Allen. Yeah. HEATERALLEN.
How could I never even have seen this?
I'd be surprised if you haven't, but and then Wayfinder's doing some great lagers as well. I'm always sort of amazed by Oregon because the way
I must have seen this. I've Googled it right now.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I don't think I've seen this beer.
Okay.
And maybe they just don't stock it at the grocery stores I go to.
All right. Well, Lisa Allen's a good friend, so I almost sent you
just
some.
Pretend, Bill. Just pretend.
Yeah. I almost sent you some because I had some in the fridge here, but I sent you some. I sent you a box of beer that's going to arrive in a couple of days. But I sent you East Coast stuff because I was like, well, why am I going to send Bill, Heater Allen when he can just walk down the street and get it fresh? So now you should walk down the street and get it fresh. But I'm always sort of amazed by Oregon because the way that I view it here in Jersey is this sort of, utopia of enlightenment, of, local everything. And once you live in Portland, nobody is actually from Portland. Everybody comes from someplace else kind of thing, but it's all, local, and there's 500 breweries within, a minute or minute and a half of your house. Like there's so much local options. And when I hear you, and I have friends who live there who are talking about, drinking PBR and going to McDonald's, I'm like, I expect that from Route 1 off of Jersey, but like not in Portland.
I'm sort of a Philistine. Let me say that first of all, I am a Philistine in some ways. However, I would get Freem if I was super wealthy all the time instead of PBR. But PBR is enjoyable, and I can have it. I can sip it over the course of the evening while I eat 1,000 pretzels.
Yeah.
It's not like an event. Like a lot of this beer is an event drinking beer. Like you can drink 1 or 2, and that's it. Like a porter or whatever. Like that's not my thing. I like to have several beers in a sitting.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But also in terms of the food, I should say, even though I review fast food, I don't go there every meal. Most of the meals I have out are local places, are food carts and things like that often, and I do often put them on Instagram.
Right.
We have, even the best fast food burger, we have 50 local burgers that are better than the best fast food burger here. And generally, the food, as you said, it is a utopia of stuff like that, and I do try to promote it at every opportunity.
In talking, just to jump back a little bit, we were talking a little bit how you were saying fast food is very much Americana. Maybe the cheeseburger is the most iconic thing. I think beer, to a degree, obviously beer has its origins, dating back thousands of years. But, you think of like a can of Budweiser, right? I feel like that is also very much Americana. And it seems like beer is a useful tool, especially when you're writing for a show like The Simpsons, right? You think of Duff Beer for being able to relate to the everyman. And I'm just interested in kind of what your thoughts are on how you can use beer in writing to tell a story or to help flesh out a character, right? Homer Simpson is not Homer Simpson without Duff.
Right. I think as you said, beer is not exclusively American, and I think you'd alarm the crap out of people from Germany or Austria.
Right, of course, right.
If you said
right.
that, like, that beer, a certain type of beer, which they consider to be swill, as we had the Simpsons, that they consider our beer to be swill, that that only a swine would drink this beer, and that's what American beer is. This is a unique type of thing, which is canned beer, generally with a red, white, and blue or something like that on the can.
Yeah.
That is the everyman's drink. And I think there's probably two ways that you could go in comedy writing with beer. One is the way that was depicted on both The Simpsons and King of the Hill, which is a can of beer, a particular brand that is that guys drink in their back alley or while they're watching TV and zoning out, and or probably Archie Bunker, I imagine, probably in All in the Family had a beer like that too.
Right.
Then there's the other way that you would go, which would be in a more Portlandia sense, which would be the beer snob type person,
right?
Who is the hipster beer snob, and that's probably that's a much more rarefied caricature, but that's probably I would say the two most likely comedy stereotypes of beer drinkers.
More with Bill in a moment, but first, a word of thanks to this episode's sponsor, and I hope you'll give them a closer look. NZ Hops is a cooperative of master growers whose legend and cultivars have been crafted for over 150 years to produce some of the world's finest hops. NZ Hops are like no other, unique in their flavors and aromas. Visit nzhops.co.nz to explore more. And now, back to the conversation with Bill Oakley. So, in The Simpsons, though, at least, Duff became a character. And I don't mean Duff Man, but I just mean like Duff the brewery, the brand is such an integral part of the show, and it is such a character. And one of the things that I've been largely frustrated about as somebody who's been covering the beer industry for a long time is the way that beer is treated by and large by most television shows or movies. And I think The Simpsons gets it right, where there is this, you walk the fine line between funny and abuse sometimes, where you don't want to go too over the top, but like you also don't hide the effects of drinking too many beers.
Right, just flat out address it sometimes.
Yeah. But there's been some other shows. There's a show on Netflix, and I'm not asking you to comment on somebody else's art or lack thereof, but there's a show on Netflix that came out a couple of months ago called Brews Brothers, where it was two brothers who owned a brewery, and it was just filled with gutter humor or sex humor, or it was just going for sort of the low-hanging fruit. And I felt like there's a missed opportunity there to not necessarily elevate beer, but to treat it with the place in life that it actually is, which is not always just, silly jokes, So when you're writing about beer, and you've done this on a couple of different shows, like, where do you start with a beer joke?
Generally, it has to come from the character. I mean, that if you're depicting your blue-collar average American Homer Simpson type, then he's going to be drinking beer. I mean, I think that you don't start to write a beer joke. The beer is the affectation or the habit of a character, and also as in most writing, you don't have beer there unless it's for a reason. It's just like having a character smoke cigarettes versus not doing that. Like it's a character choice that gives the character gives people a distinct perception of the character. So like in general, if a guy is drinking a mug of beer, there's a reason for it, dramatically, or something you want to reveal about the character. Like you don't, like on the X-Files, you wouldn't have Scully and Mulder at a bar drinking beers because people would be like, why are they drinking? Like
right,
it would raise issues,
Right.
It would raise issues, and like that's in general, there's got to be a dramatic point to it, and furthermore, having a person choose beer versus choosing some sort of cocktail is also a character choice.
Yeah. Or wine, which always seems to have this sort of larger air of sophistication, or it's the housewife trope.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Like, think about Mad Men, Don Draper, and him drinking in Manhattan. Very clear choice. It puts him in a certain era as a certain type of person. When he drinks beer, which he occasionally does, it's like at a picnic or something like that. But I don't think you ever see him drink wine unless it was maybe at some fancy event where steak was served or something like that. So every time you choose a certain type of alcohol and you show a character drinking it, it is for a reason.
You mentioned earlier, Bill, that you enjoy some cocktails, right? Not just beer. What's your favorite cocktail? What's your drink of choice these days?
Actually, I have to say that now it is the old fashioned, and I only started having them 2 months ago. I'm in a good position where this High Time Liquors in Orange County, California, and a woman named Veronica Castro have been sending me various liquors throughout the past couple of years to put on my Instagram and to sample. And I don't think I ever had an old fashioned until about 2 or 3 months ago, when they sent me like a little cocktail book and the stuff to make an old fashioned. And I have to say, I really like it. Particularly these Lozano cherries, these incredible cherries from Italy. That I'd never
Luxardo.
had. Luxardo, yes, not Lozano. That's Salsa Lozano from Costa Rica. Luxardo cherries are unbelievable. I've never tasted such a thing, and I can't believe that in all the years I've lived, I've never been exposed to that type of cherry. But in any case, putting one of those in an old fashioned and so forth is delicious. Also, Sazerac, which is a sort of similar type of thing, is another cocktail that I have recently come to like.
A New Orleans
generally, though,
cocktail.
Yes. Generally, though, I often will just go with a vodka martini on the rocks. But I find that recently I prefer things that are made with rye because they have a little bit more flavor.
Yeah, a little spiciness to it, a little bit more depth. I dig that. You've been chronicling on your Instagram page at that Bill Oakley the rise, or what is probably turning into the Great Chicken Sandwich War. I don't know if it's a battle or a war or just a skirmish right now.
Right.
But everybody is trying to perfect a chicken sandwich. Why?
I could use the entirety of your podcast to explain this, but I will give you the it's not going to be that interesting. I'll tell you, the chicken sandwich wars are basically over. Okay, the only place that has yet to weigh in is Burger King, and my suspicion is that they're not going to bring it. They rarely do. And
is that because Burger King's terrible?
Yes. To be honest, to be blunt about it, I still like the Whopper with cheese. Still one of my favorite fast food items. Everything else, crummy. They haven't bothered to update their menu in 30 years.
I remember Jon Stewart used to fight against Arby's when he was hosting The Daily Show.
That was so misplaced. Arby's is so good. Arby's is so good. I can't. Look. I can go on for hours about this topic. The Arby's is so good. He did it because Arb is a funny sound.
Yeah, right.
You would never do it if Burger King. You'd be like, Burger King is far worse than Arby's, but it's not funny. It's not funny to say Burger King. It's funny to say Arby's because Arb is a funny sound.
Arby's sustained me when I was a young reporter at the Indianapolis Star in like 2003. Arby's was the only place that was open when I was working the midnight cop shift. So like I have a soft spot for Arby's in there.
Yeah.
But Burger King though was the place that our school, when Tom and I were growing up, would host a local fundraiser for the for the Catholic school that we went to, and so once a month you had to go to Burger King to put the receipt in there in the box, and then they would donate 5% of what everybody spent like back to the school kind of thing. And every month where we had to go, it was just awful. Like to this day. Like I'll drive past a rest stop if there's a Burger King in it, even if I'm starving and I have to take a leak. I'm gonna keep going because anything's better.
I agree with you, except with the sole exception of the Whopper with cheese, and even the Impossible Whopper if you're a vegetarian, also very good. Everything else not worth the effort.
Oh, so look, this I'm sorry, Bill. This is a major bone of contention here because I think your friends the Doughboys would also disagree. They've proclaimed that Burger King is back, and
Is back?
Yeah, Burger King is back, baby.
From where?
Look, what have they done to be back? They haven't done anything.
They've upped their game. That's
no. Well, maybe the Doughboys will invite me on it, and maybe it's also I want to say it is possible. The ones in Portland are just far worse than every other one.
And I think that's a huge problem with the chain is that there are a lot there. There's good Burger Kings and there are bad Burger Kings. And obviously when you're talking about something like fast food, you want consistency throughout the country in a national chain like that. And you don't get that at Burger King, but find a good Burger King. And
maybe I will. Maybe I'll go out and
Bill, when you go on their show, I'll come on and I'll back you up on just. Tom reminded me right before we went on the air that Burger King it was a Star Wars promotion where they made a black bun.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a Star Wars or what. Right, they had a Whopper with a black bun, right, like a squid ink type thing.
They do this. That's the thing. One of the things that's so annoying about them. Every 2 months, there's some new burger. Hey, Burger King's introducing this green burger for Halloween, and then you read the stuff, and then you read the article, and it says this burger will be available at 12 locations in the entire country, and it will be available for 1 day. Yet it's gotten all this press, and it's like, fuck you. This article, if you're gonna, you can't. It's so annoying because there's an endless need for content in terms of all these food things. And so when Burger King introduces their green burger and selling it at 12 locations, that didn't take much effort.
Yeah. Right.
That's not, they're not even introducing it. It's a publicity stunt, pure and simple. And it worked, So anyway.
So why are the chicken wars over? Let's get back to why is the chicken sandwich war over?
Because the final shot was fired by McDonald's, which is the biggest player in this whole game. But I'll tell you where it ranked. Like, here's the thing. The chicken sandwich, this is where it all began, and this came from talking to Mike Harris, who used to be the head chef for McDonald's. It was Chick-fil-A, the massive expansion and success of Chick-fil-A all over the country. Chick-fil-A was a regional player that people loved, and then it started expanding everywhere, and people love it. And so it was everyone's desire to get on that train. And then there was the slight in the road when Popeyes decided to get on the train and created this magnificent chicken sandwich that everybody in the country went bananas for, and that was like 2 years ago now. And like people were waiting in line for 9 hours and there were like fights and shootings and stuff. And like it got a lot of publicity. It got a lot of publicity, and justifiably so, because it's the best. It's absolutely terrific.
It's very, very good.
Popeye sandwich, and
I've never had
it. It's delicious.
It's rare. It was a game changer to the extent that something like Chicken McNuggets were, where it's just like this is a defining moment in the history of fast food. So two different heavy players, Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. Everybody else had to play catch up on this game. KFC came out with a pretty mediocre version. A number of other places like Church's, other places did it that. Then McDonald's introduced theirs last month, and it is the best chicken sandwich ever served at McDonald's. A somewhat of an improvement over the Southern style chicken sandwich that they served about 12 years ago, but it tastes pretty much identical to Chick-fil-A, which is saying something because Chick-fil-A is really good.
Yeah.
So I would say, however, Popeyes, they're never going to be Popeyes. I mean, Popeyes is unbeatable in this category. However, McDonald's is 85% as good as Popeyes, tied with Chick-fil-A for second. Then after, then you go down into the other players, like KFC and so forth. And the final entry in the final combatant in the war will be Burger King when they introduce this hand-breaded chicken sandwich. I'd say my expectations are low given their history.
Hand-breaded too.
That's what they say.
That's such a beer term as well, like handcrafted. It's like I don't want your hands on mine.
They're mechanical hands.
Yeah.
Bill, do you think one thing I was thinking about was, obviously, fast food and drinking go hand in hand in the sense of, you have too many Pabst Blue Ribbons and nothing quite cures a hangover the next day, like a quarter pounder with cheese, right? But they don't. But I don't think there's really any fast food place that I know of. There may be a few Taco Bells that serve alcohol as more of a gimmick thing, getting back to that. But there's really not any kind of proliferation of where, a place where you can go and get a beer and a fast food burger, right? Obviously,
in this country.
Right, at least in this country, yeah. Why do you think that is?
I just imagine that there's so many problems with liquor. Well, first of all, you can't. There's. My guess is you can't have them at a drive. You can't serve liquor at a drive-through.
That's a very good point.
You can't. And you can't. And the places often are, or at least up until recently, we're targeting an audience of families and kids. So that also doesn't go like here. Like the perfect cautionary tale of a place that served beer that was also for kids and families was Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
And Chuck E. Cheese had so many fights. Chuck E. Cheese is bankrupt and gone now, due to the pandemic mainly. But like you would always, prior to that, you'd always read about fights breaking out at Chuck E. Cheese, which is scary.
Yeah.
That's scary. And it was because people were drinking beer in this atmosphere and sitting there waiting for their kids to be done and getting drunk, and then fights would break out. And like that's a perfect example of why it's probably not good to serve beer at a place, where there's going to be lots of families and kids. That's another reason, I imagine.
I don't think either of us ever had a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese, but we went to a lot of them.
Yeah, I had one. My 5th birthday was at a Chuck E. Cheese, and I just really remember being very creeped out by the animatronic band that plays, and even at 5 being pretty underwhelmed by the pizza.
There was a story that came out at the early part of the pandemic where the Chuck E. Cheese changed its name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For Grubhub.
Became a pizza place.
Yeah. And was trying to sell people.
Oh, I didn't hear this.
Yeah, frozen pizza. It was in the Philly area. It was like Pasquale di Rat or something, and it was they were trying to sell their pizzas through.
Then they were. And I mean, it was a noble. I would say. I don't think it was just in Philly. I think it was all over the country.
Okay.
And it was a noble effort to try to rescue this dying franchise, which now is gone. Sadly.
Sadly, yes, but like also, when you think about a Chuck E. Cheese pre-pandemic, the idea of going to one post-pandemic is just like my skin kind of crawls a little bit.
Yeah. And all those buffet places are in trouble. Like those hometown buffet places and things like that are like,
right.
They're all going to have a hard time recovering from this.
Are there, speaking of places closing, are there fast food chains that you've come across in the past that you wish had taken off in a larger way that just never did?
There are some, yes. There's this one, I'll tell you specifically. There's this one called Noggles, which you guys probably never heard of.
No.
You've probably heard of Del Taco?
Yeah.
It's a West Coast.
Okay.
Right.
Right. One of the guys, Del Taco is really good. One of the guys who was instrumental in founding Del Taco was this guy named Dick Noggle, and I think he spun off his own taco chain.
Is that a real name?
N-A-U-G.
Dick Noggle? Come on.
I know. It is his real name. And it basically had a similar menu to Del Taco, but with much like fresher, higher quality ingredients. And it was a terrific. It was a big deal in California in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I only had it once, and it was amazing. And so it was defunct. But now it's just recently been brought back. And people who live in Orange County, they have 2 locations, and I've gotten a couple of reports that they're terrific. So that's one, and I'm very eager to go there. As far as other chains that are out of business, I don't really miss them that much, like Burger Chef and Red Barn. They were all kind of middle of the road places, but more like for nostalgia value. There's so many chains that are current that I'm dying to go to that I have never been to because we don't have them around here, like Portillo's and Culver's and Brahms and Whataburger.
Sure.
Just to name a few. And
Culver's is great. That's more of like Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, Midwest
yeah.
And Wisconsin specifically, but like the Doughboys have said that that's the best fast food in existence.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard that. I've just heard nothing but raves about it from everybody, and I'm dying to go there.
Tom and I were talking about beforehand. There's a chain out here called Roy Rogers.
I grew up with Roy Rogers.
Yeah,
we have that in D.C.
Yeah,
but there's only one left, right?
There's like 2 or 3.
There's a handful. Most of them in rest stops along the turnpike, but. It's the only place where you can get a holster of French fries, which I think is just a fantastic thing with 2 little slots in it, so you can literally put it on your belt like it's a holster and eat curly fries out of it. It's fantastic.
That chain was a really big deal in like the 80s, 70s.
Oh
80s.
yeah,
and as it was the only one that I ever got to go to, because I could walk there. And it was about a 40-minute walk. But I did go there, and I had that more than any other fast food up till the time I went to college.
Oh, that's great.
So Tom was asking just about what goes well beer wise. I'm often thinking about like the next morning and the frustration of fast food breakfast. Is there runway there? Is there white space for somebody to really conquer breakfast in the fast food space, or should we all just be going to diners?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of fast food breakfast items that are. I don't get them very often because I generally do not eat breakfast or whatever. 'Cause I don't like.
Well, sure, all those PBRs, you're waking up after they stop serving the Egg McMuffin. Yeah.
Right. I think fast food breakfast is in good shape. Like people tell me, I don't eat at Burger King very much, but people tell me that the breakfast at Burger King at the croissant is still very good. There's this, all the Taco Bell breakfast items I like the breakfast burritos are good. And this Carl's Jr. has a breakfast burger, which is really questionably a breakfast item. But I mean, it's super good if you like that. If you want to have a nice heavy breakfast burger type experience, that one, Carl's Jr. is excellent.
Yeah, Wendy's I think does a nice job. They just recently entered the breakfast arena. I think they do a great job. That breakfast Baconator is top notch.
All right, I'll stand corrected.
I got to try that. I got to try that. That started right before the pandemic, and I never actually got to try any of the Wendy's breakfast items.
There are a lot of people who write into your Instagram page at that Bill Oakley. Am I doing this right? Am I plugging you significantly as we're doing this?
Yeah, good. Yes, please.
With hacks, ways that you can sort of hijack the menu to your own culinary delight. What are some of the better hacks, one or two, that you've come across that people have sent in that you can get?
I've only done a couple, and I would say here's the thing now. I'm starting to feel bad about it because I'm getting shit from people who point out that it causes a lot of trouble for the employees to do this. And so because I actually, again, with Mike Harris, who I did this kind of event with on Twitter Spaces, who was the head chef at McDonald's, confirmed that it actually does hassle the employees when you have your thing specially done, and it causes them a little bit of stress. So I'm trying. I kind of want to do the menu hacks, but I also don't want to do them very much for that reason. Or maybe I should just caution people that don't do this at a busy time of day, perhaps.
Yeah.
Anyway, the best one I had so far was adding 4 tomatoes to the Big Mac. And it sounds simple, but first of all, it requires a little bit of Big Mac never came with tomatoes, right? And it requires a little bit of customization because the employees are not allowed to add more than 2. And you have to get somebody who really knows how to operate the register to get your 4 tomatoes. But it really does. It actually kind of tastes like an In-N-Out burger when you have that, which is the reason to do the hack. It doesn't taste exactly like an In-N-Out double, but it tastes about 60% like one. And if you live in an area without In-N-Out, it's worth a shot. I really liked it. So that's the one. I've never successfully been able to get it again with 4 tomatoes, though, because everyone is always like, we can only give you 2. So it requires a little bit of it requires that you get an employee with a lot of finesse at the McDonald's system.
One thing that I've noticed in watching your Instagram stories and watching your Instagram videos about the fast food reviews is you do these all from your car. I had a college roommate who would quote his father, actually, who said, you'd go to McDonald's. French fries are for the car, right? The French fries are not getting home if you're bringing McDonald's home. Do you think fast food tastes better in a car, especially due to the drive-through window, right?
I actually just wrote an article about Car and Driver. I wrote an article for Car and Driver about this very topic.
Excellent.
Is it out yet? Because we did our crack shot research department didn't get there.
It's going to be in the May. It's going to be in the May issue of Car and Driver. They asked me to write an article about eating fast food in your car, and the answer is yes. The car, you got to eat. Everybody knows this. The fast food, you got to eat it in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
There's no if you this is the whole thing, and I know everybody has to survive during this pandemic, and this is why people are getting their fast food delivered by Grubhub or DoorDash. But what you're getting is not going to be very good,
right?
And this actually goes to the whole thing of Donald Trump, by the way. Donald Trump? Please do not equate fast food with Donald Trump. This is a guy who's ordered his fast food. He never ate fast food the way it was supposed to be eaten. He got someone else to go get it, and he clearly never had fast food that was more than 30 minutes. It was always more than 30 minutes old, and that's a debasement of fast food. So
John, do we bleep his name out?
No. But most everybody in our area gave up on him years ago when he was at Sbarro's in Times Square eating pizza with a knife and fork. So you lose all of your street cred in this area when you do such a thing.
And And he only, and from what I've read, it's not even that he likes it. It's just that he's afraid of being poisoned, which is why he wants food that's mass produced. So it's another weird thing about. Anyway, fortunately, we don't have to deal with him anymore. But that said, fast food has to be eaten as soon as possible, which is why when I review my items, I generally get the item and eat it immediately, like in the parking lot of the restaurant. And then if I'm filming elsewhere, like in my driveway or wherever else, I have a second set of the item that is mainly for the photos, that is not for the taste.
Right.
So that but in answer to your question, it should be eaten in the car. It's hard to eat French fries in the car because part of the joy of French fries is dipping them in ketchup, and that's difficult to do while driving.
Yeah.
But if you eat them in your car or in the parking lot, excellent. There's also these new things you can buy, by the way, if you look on Amazon, that are like these dip clip things that clip your little sauces, and it kind of clips them into like the vent with it, and so you can have your sauces. It makes it easier to dip while driving, which again is very unsafe. You shouldn't do it.
Right.
I feel like this is like a Law and Order episode waiting to happen, where what was where the guy would take off his sunglasses? That was CSI.
Oh,
where it's just it's another dip clip accident.
Right. And you turn on the air conditioning the next day, and you get a nice scent of honey mustard filling your car. That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a fry thing too. There's a thing actually that also holds the fries that adapts your cup holder into a fry holder as well, which is a kind of a cool invention. But in any case, as I learned for writing this article for Car and Driver, you're 39% more likely to have an accident or where someone gets injured if you're eating while driving. So keep that in mind.
What's your workout routine like?
I go to the gym every day for 40 minutes, and I do elliptical every day for about 40 minutes, and I do I lift weights, maybe once a week.
That's great. And I feel like whether it's eating and whether, fast food or really, any type of indulgent food or drinking, you need to incorporate that into your daily life, right? That's life is about balances. And that's certainly got to be a big part of it. Do you feel as though exercising, working out also kind of helps the creative part of your brain?
Absolutely. I can't stress that enough. And even it helps in the middle of the day. To go for a walk, going for a walk of any length, always gives me if I'm stuck on a joke or a line, the solution is always to take a walk.
I'm mindful of your time, so as we start to wrap up here, I want to sort of bring us back to where you started us with. Steamed hams, it's now art imitating life or life imitating art. It's a thing now, right? Chefs are trying to straight up steam hamburgers.
I got a couple of different things for you about this topic. First of all, for this,
you're a man of multitudes, Bill.
Yeah.
Every steamed hams thing in the world gets directed to me somehow, so I am very aware of it. But first of all, I should say there's one that rules them all, which is here in Portland once a year. One of our best food carts here, JoJo PDX, does a steamed ham, Bill Oakley steamed ham burger, and he's done it every year with my endorsement because it's my recipe actually. It's a steamed ham sandwich rather, not a burger, which I heartily endorse and is the only authorized by Bill Oakley steamed ham sandwich there is. Now it's not a burger. It's a sandwich. It's basically a ham and cheese sandwich with Colbin's mustard and pickles on it. But it is delightfully decadent. And,
so like deli ham?
Well, fancy deli ham, yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay, sure. Gourmet deli ham, yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, there's believe me, there's a lot of different types of ham.
It's
very fancy ham, and cheese, and Duke's mayo, all the stuff that I like. So that is the only authorized thing, and anybody here in Portland should obviously follow
but wait, are there grilled marks on it?
It is grilled, yeah. I mean, It's grilled and steamed. It's not entirely. The ham itself is steamed.
Okay.
Then the sandwich is grilled. It's kind of a grilled cheese type sandwich.
Okay.
And also, by the way, anybody who wants the recipe can send me a direct message on Instagram, and I will send you the recipe.
At that Bill Oakley.
But however, now the steamed hamburger, I don't recommend it. And I did an episode of this I did an episode of First We Feast, I believe.
Yeah, I like those guys.
With those guys, and they did, and I was the celebrity guest as they both attempted to do a steamed hamburger, which ultimately was not. I don't think they found it that enjoyable. And there's only one place really that does it, which is this place in Connecticut. I think it's called Ted's, which has been steaming these hamburgers for 100 years, and they cook them in this specialized little device machine that steams the meat and the cheese. And every person who's told me they've tried it said it was lousy.
Well, it's kind of like White Castle in some way, where you put the little bowl, or like White Mana here in Jersey, where you put the bowl over the burger so that it does absorb some more of the moisture.
It's still on top of the grill.
Not at Ted's. They don't. It's not a grill. It never reaches a grill.
Oh,
that's a different. At Ted's, it is entirely done in this little cabinet that is heated by steamed water vapor, and
cool.
And that is like, I don't find boiling. It's basically the equivalent of sort of boiling boiling ground beef, which people don't do. People don't boil ground beef for a reason,
I don't know, the Irish, but yeah.
Well, unless they're going to put it in a beer,
right?
Which has happened, also.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't recommend it doing it that way?
No.
Has Albany given you a key to the city yet?
No, they haven't. But I have gotten a lot of lovely messages from people in Albany with regards to that. And I've never gotten official recognition from any political entity in Albany. No.
It's an outrage. It's an outrage.
It's okay. It'll come. What's really going to happen, though, I guarantee is going to happen, is at some point, now that Disney owns The Simpsons and is absorbing Simpsons stuff into their multiverse, when there are Simpsons attractions, I guess when the lease expires with Universal, which currently has all the Simpsons stuff, and it all is absorbed into Disney, there's going to be a steamed hamburger available at the Simpsons themed restaurant, and I absolutely promise you I will not be invited.
You'll have to pay double to get in.
Yeah, that's the way that this kind of thing operates, and like I would say that there's very little. They will not remember, the person who wrote the steamed hams will not be remembered by Disney Corporation at that point.
One of the things that I love, though, is that it did take this joke so long to, you wrote so many other things for that show, obviously, that are part of the lexicon and part of the general consciousness. And, you brought this up again. I need to feel like I need to repeat that, because I wasn't just like the fanboy who's going to be like, I'm going to talk about Chalmers and Skinner's for the whole time. But like you've now sort of embraced this in a way where every year now you're giving out awards for fast foods that you're calling the Steamies.
Yeah. That's part. Cross branding. Got to work on the cross branding, and that's part of the thing. That is why it is. I don't generally do a lot of Simpsons stuff in my Instagram reviews, but the Steamies, that is. I mean, why not? I want to translate my one claim to fame into a second claim to fame.
Is that really? When you said that it would be on your tombstone, do you really believe that?
I kind of do, actually. I mean, I don't know. We'll see who's in charge of engraving my tombstone and what they choose to put on it. But maybe I should do that before I get old and die. Maybe I should get my tombstone made in advance.
Oh, that's grim.
Is there a joke, though, from and we can talk about all of your different shows. I know we're out of time, but out of all of the shows that you've done, is there a joke that you did for yourself or your friends when you were writing it that you wish had the same level of recognition as Steamed Hams?
I don't know if there's a particular line or joke. There's certainly a number of other projects that Josh and I did that I wish had gotten made, far more than that. Josh and I wrote a lot of, for every TV show that you see, there are 100 that are written and never made.
Yeah.
And we've written a number of pilots over the years, some of which are some of my favorite things I've ever done, that didn't get made for whatever reason. So in answer to your question, yes, there's tons of stuff but I don't, not any particular lines or jokes. So, yeah, and I will say, actually, this one thing I will tease. I did a thing, I don't even know if this is a secret or not. I did a thing for Audible, which is a 10-part series, which is gigantic, which is the biggest thing I've ever written. It was 552 script pages. I wrote every single thing myself. It's going to come out in probably, I guess, this summer, and I can't say anything further about it. But like I say, that contains everything I ever wanted to do. It's got so many jokes of a very specific nature that are the kind that I like to write. And if you're a fan of the stuff I've written, you've got to check this out. That's all I can say at the moment. But obviously, I will announce it on my Twitter.
All right.
And probably on my Instagram too, because I'm very proud of it.
Your magnum opus.
Correct.
That's great.
Bill, thanks for doing the show. Thanks for sharing your fast food expertise, your comedy writing insight. This is, again, one of those shows that I wish I could have done in person. So if, when everybody gets 2 shots in the arm and I'm out in Portland, maybe I'll buy a seat for Tom as well, and we'll come out and we'll buy you a beer.
Oh, that would be terrific.
Good one. But thanks for doing this. 22.
My pleasure. It was great fun.
Take care, Bill.
That's Bill Oakley. You can find him on Instagram at @thatbilloakley and check out sitegags.com for his various merchandise. Tom, thanks for doing this. It was actually a lot of fun, a little bit weird, but overall enjoyable to just have you here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It was great being here. Great to obviously be on my older brother's podcast, and also really great to talk to Bill.
Well, you don't have any younger brothers, so
that's true. Yeah, my older and shorter brother's podcast.
Very, very true. So the thing that I enjoyed about Bill, here's a guy who doesn't need to come on this podcast. We recorded this on a Sunday morning, his time in Portland, Oregon. He could have been doing any number of things. He took the time to do this. You had an experience with him last year just through Instagram, where he's just a nice guy. I think what we got just now is who he is.
It's so genuine. Yeah, about a year ago, right around this time, at the beginning of the pandemic, I commented on one of his Instagram stories. I've been following him for a while, and to my surprise, he responded to me. And it wasn't just a thanks; it was an engaging response. And we had a back and forth over the course of a couple of days. And I realized, this guy is someone who is not only, like I said, genuine and a really nice guy, but he's also interested in engaging with people on different levels.
Yeah. No, conversations like this, I miss doing them in person, but it was so much fun to sort of understand the world of fast food, and there are so many correlations between the beer world. So that was fun, and also it's so weird having you sit across from me while we're doing this, because as we mentioned once in the show, maybe twice. There's this weird sort of sibling connection where we almost stepped on each other a couple of times with the same joke.
Yeah, it's like we finish each other's sandwiches.
Oh, man. We both have young girls who are watching Frozen endlessly. That's kind of fun. All right, before we go, a reminder to join the This Week in Rausch Beer Facebook page and to follow along on Twitter and Instagram at TW Rausch Beer. Listen in to Steal This Beer with new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast on the 15th of every month. Andy Crouch, he hosts the Beer Edge podcast, and you should listen every week to that as well.
Visit beeredge.com for articles, episodes, to subscribe to the newsletter, and more. And please do my brother a favor and leave a review of this show wherever you download podcasts.
Oh, you're such a nice guy. You can email me at johnholl@beeredge.com with guest suggestions, beer suggestions, fast food hacks, and more. Or you can follow along on Twitter at John_Holl. And if you'd like to learn more about advertising on this show, you can reach out to Liz Melby. She's on email at liz@beeredge.com. And speaking of that, my thanks to this episode's sponsor, NZ Hops. In a little country far down in the Pacific, you'll find a cooperative of master growers whose legend and cultivars have been crafted for over 150 years with creativity and passion to produce some of the world's finest hops. This is NZ Hops. The industry originated in 1843, not long after the early settlers arrived from England. Years of partnership with a dedicated hop breeding program and farming knowledge handed down through the generations sees the current-day master growers proudly providing 18 unique New Zealand hop varieties to the world. Visit nzhops.co.nz or find them on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at nzhopsltd.
Nate Schweber does the music for this show, and Jeff Quinn designed the logo. I'm Tom Holl.
And I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'm going to be back again to drink beer and to think beer.